Hello, I'm Dr. Carl, and today I wanted to talk about how much I love the European Union and how much it has always meant to me my whole life. I am 45 years old. I was born in the United States and I grew up there, so note my American English, to a mother from the United States and a father from Sweden, so I've also always had Swedish citizenship my whole life. At any rate, I was 11 years old and I spent the summer with my grandparents in Sweden, summer of 1988. And at the end of the summer, my parents came and joined my sister and I, who'd been there all summer. And my father, knowing my interest in the social sciences, history, geography, and especially my love of Europe, was telling me about what was then known as the European Community. And there are moments in life when you just, like if you're buying a house and you see several, you just know the one when you walk in, like, yes, this is the one. Sometimes when you hear an idea and you just immediately know that, yes, this is a fabulous idea. So he mentioned to me that the European Community was founded to ensure peace amongst the countries of Europe, to facilitate travel, trade, business, living and working in other countries in Europe, and while trying to emphasize the common heritage of these countries, but also their unique individual differences. And I thought to myself, wow, what a fantastic idea. My next question was, well, is Sweden a member of this organization? Well, you can imagine my disappointment when he said Sweden was not. I thought to myself, well, surely we need to join soon. The next year was 1989, or as I call it, the Great Year. I'll never forget being 12 years old and watching the countries of Eastern Europe free themselves one by one, starting with Poland in January, ending with Romania in December. And of course, I'll never forget where I was on that night, November 9th, 1989, watching the Berlin Wall come down. Side note, I first learned of its existence several years earlier when I was 9, and somehow I just knew that it wasn't going to be there much longer, and sure enough, I was right. I'll never forget how at 12 years old I said to myself, Eastern Europe looks like such an exciting place. I want to go there someday. I had no idea that I would later move to an Eastern European country where I am now, become a citizen, join a political party, since gotten a master's degree and a PhD from two different universities in two different Eastern European countries. I've since lived in three different Eastern European countries. I've joined the Orthodox Church, and I bought a home, and I've had two children in Eastern Europe. So, needless to say, I got quite involved in the region more than I realized, but somehow I knew as a 12-year-old boy watching all these exciting events. At the same time, in 1989, I learned that the single market was going to come into existence in 1992. I'll never forget being 12 years old, getting out a calculator and adding up how many days were left until the single market of 1992, and how excited I was when that came about. And at the same time, in 1991, how excited I was seeing the Maastricht Treaty being signed. Needless to say, I was very devastated in June of 92 when Denmark voted no. I was on absolute pins and needles on September 20th, 1992, when France had a referendum on the Maastricht Treaty, and oh, the relief I felt when it barely passed. And at the same time, I was watching Sweden joining the European Union. And you can imagine my concern seeing how the polls were very tight in Sweden, how it looked like it was a huge uncertainty whether Sweden would join. I was a high school exchange student that year in Switzerland, and my host family was actually Belgian. And I'll never forget, it was November 13th, 1994. I was 3 months and 3 days too young to vote in the referendum. My host brother came downstairs and told me, I just heard that Sweden has voted 52% yes. I asked, how many votes did they count so far? About half. And I said to him, Je peux commencer à respirer. I can start to breathe. I was just totally on edge about whether Sweden was going to join the European Union. And when became obvious that yes had won, oh, the relief and excitement I felt to know that I was going to be a citizen of the European Union in a month and a half. Spent that Christmas with my grandparents in Sweden, and I'll never forget, I was walking around their small town in the Småland province of Sweden on December 31st, thinking to myself, by this time tomorrow, all of this is going to be inside of the European Union. and at midnight, watching the fireworks on TV. And my grandmother turned to me and said, "Nu är vi i EU." So now we are in the European Union. Thought to myself, oh, no need to tell me. Believe me, I was thinking about that all day. After that, I went off to the University of Richmond in the United States. And in my student room, I had a big European Union flag on my wall, along with the small flags of all the other countries of Europe. In fact, everybody who knew me there knew me as the European Union guy. In fact, there was one interesting time my last year there, because I would often walk around campus wearing European Union t-shirts and hats and everything. In fact, check this out. My tie is a European Union tie. The tie clasp is a European Union tie clasp. And this is my souvenir watch that I bought in Brussels in 1995, and it still works. My wife made fun of it first, but she's amazed that after 27 years, this souvenir watch still works. At any rate, it was a British guy who came up to me and said, "Who are you?" "Well, I'm Carl Augustin, and who are you?" He said, "Do you know what those stars represent?" I said, "Yes, these are the stars of the now 15 member states of the European Union, and I am proud to be a citizen of it myself." At any rate, later on, as I mentioned Eastern Europe, I watched with excitement as country after country in Eastern Europe started joining the European Union in 2004. And as a side note, I named my children Anna and Alexander, partly because those are pan-European names, i.e. those names are in pretty much all European languages, or at least variations like Alejandro. I even wanted to give my daughter the middle name Europa, but my wife wouldn't allow that. I have even thought about getting the European Union flag tattooed on my arm, and I don't even have any tattoos. So, like many of you, it was a real gut punch watching that horrible day in 2016 when Britain voted to leave. And my deep concern is that my beautiful European Union was going to begin to unravel. Upstairs in my man cave up here, I still have that flag from my university days. I have it up on the wall, on the ceiling actually, next to a big US flag, again with all the small flags of Europe, along with a poster I had back in my university days of Helmut Kohl. Yes, other university students have celebrities like actors, singers, or athletes on their walls. I had a poster of Helmut Kohl because I saw him as being one of the greatest leaders ever. But I feel relief now to see that the European Union is not unraveling. On the contrary, more countries are trying to join it. As I said, the Republic of Georgia is trying to join it, which would make me a citizen of the European Union 2 times over. So I have faith that someday Britain will rejoin. After all, I used my European Union citizenship to live in your country for 2 years in Scotland. So, have faith.